And here we are. We're live. I'm Gray Skeptic. Um, Hello, everyone. And I'm here with Compelled Unbeliever, David. Go ahead and say hi.
Howdy, I'm Compelled Unbeliever. I have a YouTube channel called Compelled Unbeliever. You can call me Dave. I was a extremist, fundamentalist. I was indoctrinated at a very young age, and I had some experiences, Jesus experiences and so forth. And I think because I had already grown up in a hyper religious environment, a condition I have, a type of narcolepsy, made that even worse. And of course, everybody around me fed into it really bad. And it made me very, very religious. I was a kid that took the Bible to school and everything, but I actually kept it hidden in my book bag. I wasn't showing off. I was taking it out and reading it in the park at lunch. I was that much of a religious nerd. Um, so I started my channel to help those that are fundamentalists, are in extreme religions, and I was just a Methodist. It was a more extreme Methodist church, but to help people see the fallacies of religion and to help them possibly get out if they wish to.
Awesome. Awesome. And we need that. We need that. A lot of people need that. So if you guys haven't caught on by the title and by what David said so far, that's what we're getting into tonight. Just a little bit is his form of narcolepsy that he has, where it makes him confuse dreams with reality. And I think this is a really, really neat testament to how you can't trust your brain sometimes when you think you're having a religious experience. So yeah, we're going to dive into it kind of slow at first, and we'll see how far down the rabbit hole goes. And
All
if
right.
you guys have any questions, please say so in the live chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. And if you would, please share the link out so more people join in.
So I guess I should start with kind of how I found out about it. I went to a sleep doctor. My wife said I had restless leg. In other words, I was kicking her all night. And so she made me go to a sleep doctor. And I started out the conversation, but the doctor said, "Well, what's going on?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. You know how you start to dream and then you go to sleep." And then she said, "No, I don't know how you start to dream and then you go to sleep." And I looked at her like, "What?" And she says that that's a type of narcolepsy, and it can happen both ways. You can either wake up and still be asleep where you're still dreaming, or you can start to dream and then eventually actually fall asleep. And she explained to me that there's 5 stages of sleep before you get into the REM sleep. And in cases like mine, I skip a bunch of steps. So when I start to close my eyes, I am both dreaming and conscious at the same time. I can be actively dreaming, know that I'm dreaming, and also hear a conversation and actually respond to it in the room while I'm in the middle of a dream. And as I get deeper into sleep, or my consciousness starts to slip, I guess if you want to call it, then it gets very difficult to know what is real and what is not real. In other words, I'm having a full-fledged hallucination because I am conscious. And the problem with that is usually it has something to do with whatever I'm thinking about. If I'm thinking about work, then I dream about work, and that's horrible. Don't ever think about work when you're going to sleep. Bad thing.
I can also say that's an awful thing. I've had tunnels of dreams where I'm late to work and no pants on.
Right. Well, but the thing is if you're awake, it's actually happening. Or when you wake up, you remember going to work with no pants on. And so that's where you have to kind of differentiate. Okay, you know what? I know I'm an idiot, but I probably didn't go to work with no pants. I made a video, and I think this is where your interest came into it. Essentially, once I understood what the sleep condition was, I'd always had it, and I don't know anything any different. It's always been that way, and I thought everybody did that. Um, I the doctor gave me a name, and I ignored it because I didn't care. And well, I was like, okay, now I know what's going on. You know, there's not much we can do about it, but at least I can deal with it. And I just went on with my life. Problem essentially solved. You know.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal for me. I did make a video about it, and I explained why I don't believe Paul and I don't believe Muhammad. And we can throw Joseph Smith right in there too, because they described having hallucinations. And I know for a fact, because I hallucinate every single day, that they can be very, very, very believable. Where the idea for the video came from, a few years ago, Richard Carrier wrote a book, and I believe it was on the historicity of Christ, on the historicity of Jesus. And he described Muhammad's hallucinations and how Paul had flat out said he had hallucinations and so forth. And when I read that passage in his book, Richard Carrier is such a brilliant writer and everything, but I could see where so many people would just say, oh, yeah, the atheist, the skeptic is just saying, oh, it was just a hallucination, and just trying to blow it off. But when I read this, I was like, Richard, I know you're a genius and everything else, but you have no freaking clue how right you really are on this one. You know? And it's really that little passage that probably no one else has even paid attention to in that book just really floored me. And of course, it made me even more skeptical of anything, because I've never really put the two together about hallucinations and Paul and Joseph Smith, and or Joseph Smith might have just been full of crap and lying. That's kind of hard to tell. But Muhammad definitely did have some hallucinations. There are other peoples that saw him doing some weird stuff, and where he would go into trances, and just kind of was really out there. I think Paul and...
You said which one went into trances? Joseph Smith?
The Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, sorry.
And that's documented. That's well documented. And Paul described the same thing. Now, I don't have the same type of fake. There's no problem. I'm not going to just spontaneously hallucinate. And it's not the type of narcolepsy where I'm going to spontaneously fall asleep or anything like that. It's just when I try to go into my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, because like I'm looking here, and because there's the kind of narcolepsy that you have that can bring on these religious experiences. I think I'm seeing something here that says that temporal lobe epilepsy has a connection to spiritual experiences, and also we can like induce religious experiences with like substances now, which is really pretty cool. So there's so many ways.
And there's the God helmet. The God helmet now.
Ooh, I don't know about that. Tell me about the God helmet.
Oh boy, I wish I knew the scientist. I bet you Nacho would know.
He might. He's here.
He probably would. He knows everything. How can he do that? With the God helmet, a scientist decided to put electrodes on people's heads, and he put several different electrical currents and so forth. Well, what he discovered was if he put a certain electrical current, and these are actually kind of normal things that are in the brain anyway, you just kind of stimulate them a little bit more, that people would feel a presence, a euphoria, and so forth. And he did all kinds of testing, and he got to the point where he could actually tell people, I'm going to put this helmet on you. We're going to put you in a quiet, dark room, and no one is going to be there. Nothing's going to happen. And you are going to have a religious experience. We are making your brain do this.
Okay. And
And then people would walk out in the interview and say, I know what you did and I know everything, but I still actually did have a religious experience. It was real.
mm-hmm.
Even though they knew it wasn't real, they still insisted that it was. It did not work on Dr. Dawkins, though. There are a few people that are so are so much into the logical brain that they actually it doesn't affect them, and that's primarily, from what I understand, that's only happened with actual atheists. Otherwise, whatever religious experience it is, their God visits them,
Yeah.
regardless.
Yes. That's what I've heard is when we try to trigger the part of the brain, I think some studies call it the God spot of the brain. It's whatever.
They better not shorten that
Yeah.
and make an acronym, the G spot of the brain.
Why not? You're hitting my G spot. So holy. No, they really do just they experience whatever they would experience, just whatever they already believe. So it kind of makes sense that it wouldn't really work on Dawkins, because he was always an atheist. He hasn't exercised that part of his brain where we have religious experiences. So yeah, it would make sense kind of that it just really wouldn't work on him.
So this is not, I brought this up in my video because I wanted to highlight that it is absolutely possible, and that I absolutely believe Paul, and I absolutely believe Muhammad, that they did have these experiences. I believe that is 100% real. However, I'm saying that I believe that they had the experiences, not that this experiences actually happened or were real. So what they were reporting was real to them. It just never happened.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when a person that is schizophrenic or has a condition like I do, or whatever else, when we get involved in religion, like I did as a child, then our predisposition is going to be exacerbated and actually encouraged, and we're going to see our God. I didn't see Muhammad. I grew up in a Christian area. I didn't see one of the million Hindu gods. I saw Jesus, so to speak.
Yeah. And you were Methodist, so you saw Meth Jesus, right?
Yes, I saw Meth Jesus.
Meth Jesus. So let's go ahead and hashtag that right now. Meth Jesus.
So that actually, I think, leads very well to I did have a religious experience, and I the argument I hate the worst is the argument from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it, and I think it's because of how personal it is to me.
Yeah.
When I didn't know this when it happened, I think I was about 15, and I was very, very involved with church, maybe 14. I was extremely religious at the time, and I was in bed, going to sleep, and all of a sudden God was there. And it wasn't like I did have all kinds of images that went through my head. It was like kind of like my life flashed before me or whatever. And I understood God didn't use words. It was hard to describe, but God was there with me. And basically God explained to me that I had had all these terrible things. I was molested as a child, and had the heck beat out of me when I was very small. And God explained to me that I had all these horrible experiences so that he could bring me through them, and that I could share the gospel and help others that had had horrible experiences. And I was just in complete shock and awe. So when I came out of it, I called up my pastor and everything, and I says, I had this God visited me in my room last night, and my life is completely different. And he's like, oh, okay, great, and the
Yeah.
thing is as soon as I went to church and everybody saw me, they saw that I was very different, that I was absolutely, completely convinced that God did speak to me and that God existed. And even though I was already religious, I was extremely serious at this point in time. It literally did change my life, and it still affects me to this day. That's why I'm on this channel talking to you now.
Mhm.
It had that much of an impact on me. The reason is I became so hyper religious after this that I studied my Bible constantly. Um, and I got into studying the Bible history and everything else. And I was so convinced that God was real, and so convinced that any facts that I found would always lead back to the truth of God. And
Yeah.
so my leaders were like, well, no, you don't want to look at secular stuff. You don't want to look at science. You don't want to look at all these things. You just want to stay with Jesus, stay with the Word of God, and don't get involved in the secular world. I didn't care. I had Jesus with me. There was nothing that could stop Jesus,
Right.
except for the Bible. um,
That one door stop.
yeah. Unfortunately, the more I got to read it and the more I understood it, the more I knew that it was impossible for that God to exist. Even when I knew that, it took me maybe 10 years, or maybe 5 or 10 years, somewhere in there, before I could admit to myself that I really doubted. And many years later, before I was like, it could tell myself, okay, I don't really believe in God. And years after that, before I could even say aloud by myself in a room, there is no God. And years after that, before I could actually come out and say I was an atheist. So I was a hardcore believer. It was very hard to let go of. Now, the point of me telling the story is what happened was real. It was absolutely 100% real in my brain. And I did not, as I said, I was going to sleep at the time. That's my key.
Mhm.
I know I hallucinate when I'm going to sleep now. Back then, I didn't know that I was hallucinating at all. So
And
if
how old were you when you found out that you like when you went to the doctor? How old were you
I
then?
was about 37, I
37.
think,
Okay, so
38.
so it took
It's
about
about
20 years to backtrack that experience.
right,
Okay.
right. Um, I'm 48 now, so it was about 10 years ago, and dealing with it hasn't been that difficult, but it was an extremely profound experience, and it goes back to what I said. If you have someone that has a predisposition to hallucinate or dream or have half dreams and half be awake, there are people that can have very realistic dreams.
Yeah.
So I became skeptical of almost everything because I had to be to survive.
Mhm.
When I give the example, if I'm thinking about doing chores before I go to bed, I start to dream and everything. I may think that I did chores, and I may wake up and have the memory, because my dreams, because I'm also awake, are filed into the regular memory of my cognitive, actual conscious mind. So dreams are, I mean, sometimes when I'm actually asleep, it's a dream, and it's just like everybody else. But if it seems pretty real or anything else, it's just because it's been filed into my conscious memory. So if I'm doing chores, I say, okay, I wake up after my nap. Okay, I fed the horses, I fed the pigs, I fed the sheep, I fed the goats, I fed the elephant, I fed the rabbits. We don't got an elephant. So, I better go out there and get my butt on chores. And sometimes there have been times where things have happened, and I have to ask my wife or my kids, did Fred actually buy a thoroughbred? I didn't think he liked horses. And they'll either look at me and say, well, yeah, he bought this thoroughbred, and or they'll like, what the hell are you talking about, Dad? a thoroughbred. But I remember having the conversation with him about it, and I even remember seeing it.
Mhm.
You know, but I was dreaming the whole thing.
Yeah. And I just
So go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry. I just kind of wanted to point out that like this sounds like as cool and trippy as this this condition is. It's a very serious thing. This is something you have to deal with every day, and the way that you talk about it is so lighthearted, and it's really cool just to see your disposition on this topic. Even though this is a daily thing for you, this is something you have to deal with all the time that really impacts your life and has profoundly impacted your life for like 30, 40 years.
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, I I have a type of narcolepsy, and I also have a collagen disorder that makes me very
Ooh.
flexible, and it's caused some severe problems for my son. But you have brown hair,
Mhm.
and you may have a glaucoma or something like that, or maybe a pre-diabetic. So we've all got our own crap we got to deal with. It's not really a big deal. It's just as long as we can identify our BS,
Mhm.
then we can deal with it. And like
Yeah.
Godless Iowan, he's identified exactly what's going on, and he's trucking and doing great.
Yeah.
But he still has to deal with it, and it's still a pain in the ass.
Right. And like no matter what you're dealing with, if you can deal with it with a smile, it changes, like that can change your whole world, right?
Oh, absolutely. So it's not a big deal to me, but it's a very big deal to me when it concerns religion, because this is what is important. What if I never discovered that I was hallucinating, or I didn't know that I was hallucinating? What if I was still very actively involved in the church and Jesus visited me again and told me to go, go be a missionary with headhunters, and so I, go get my face chopped off. you know, or
Yeah.
what if I was an absolute true believer and I was of other religions that like to fly airplanes into buildings? Then if I truly believed that I did because I was awake when I hallucinated and Muhammad or whatever else told me to hurt someone, I don't know that I wouldn't have. And that terrifies me.
Yeah. And
It
I
really, and I'm saying I might have done this. Okay,
mhm.
this is what terrifies me,
Right.
and why I think it's so important to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, this topic is one that really shouldn't be off the table, and like especially to be like honest about, because a lot of people assume that we'll go with Islamic extremists that go and like sacrifice so they can, go straight to the Holy Land and have
Mm.
their 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 versions. They're just selfish psychopaths that are just completely confused, and they just really believe what they know, and they've been raised since birth to believe what they believe, and to believe that we're evil for one. So who doesn't want to get rid of evil in the world, right?
Absolutely, I empathize with them 100%
Hmm.
because they know they're doing what's right.
Right? They know that
They
they're
know,
agnostic about it.
and I believe them. I believe them because they're willing to die, and they do.
Hmm.
And there is no more sincerity than one can have than to go blow themselves up. I'm serious,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and that terrifies me. I mean, what if due to this condition, and another time in another place, I was that guy? What if I had hurt somebody else?
yeah. And I'll share something from my past to kind of like link myself to it a little bit and kind of widen the conversation. Because I I thought when I was younger, like in my teens or like early 20s, and like in my late 20s now. So not so long ago that, man, am I gonna have to like play a part in like um Armageddon for like Judgment Day to come? Like, am I gonna have to play some part in like cause a big scene or what? Like, am I gonna have to kill someone or something? Like, something went through my brain at one point in time that I remember, to where I thought, am I gonna have to cause harm to a person or society to help the apocalypse rise? Because for some reason, Christians really wanted the end time for this world war to break out or whatever. And that's scary to me too, because of course it is. Like, any rash person can be like, wow, it's kind of crazy. Why do you want that?
I just saw a thing.
There's better things to hope for in this world.
I just saw a thing on Twitter where there somebody said Jesus was coming soon, and within a very short period of time, there were like 3,000 comments or something. Like, it was completely nuts. And all these people were sending these little pictures of right now, yay, let's do it, and all this. And I began to get actually sick looking at it. I was like, these people are so willing to die. And I hope a lot of them didn't really mean it or didn't believe it or just kind of jumping on the bandwagon. But I'm sure there were a lot of them that did. And I did. And so when at the beginning of my videos, most of them, you've probably seen a few of them at least, I say it just got real. So due to my condition partly and other factors of when I was just trying to discover who and what God was, I didn't care about who or what God was. And I still don't. I want to know what God is, or if he exists. Then I can deal about what God is and everything else, but I have to know that actually exists. And then I can worry about, licking God's feet or whatever the heck he wants, But no, and I'm kind of serious here. Maybe there is a good God out there. Fine. Then I need to know that God exists. And so when I say it just got real, and when I start my videos, it's a little bit, well, it's a lot deeper than a catchy phrase, because I'm dead serious about it.
One of my old little phrases, like when I first started, was and I don't have it anymore. I don't know where it went. I had a little coaster that said it's this is real. Because sometimes you get the most ridiculous shit, like politics right now. You look at it and you're like, this is real. Why? Why is this real? This is real.
Exactly.
And it's just kind of ridiculous. But yeah, so I can understand that, and I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, so yeah.
So in my videos, I feel like I'm halfway trolling when I make my video titles. How to find a good church.
Yeah.
Because I'm really looking for Christians, and I start out with different aspects of churches or whatever. But then as the video goes along, I get deeper and deeper and more slanted towards the message I want to get, because I start out literally towards what a Christian. I'm trying to answer the question that the Christian wants to be answered, and I'm trying to be honest about that. But then I slide into how to find a good church. Well, are you God shopping? Are you looking for a church that suits you? Are you looking for God? Are you looking for a God that suits you? Or are you looking for an actual God? And do you know that there is a God? And so all of my videos tank pretty much in that respect, because they sound real nice and Christiany, and everything's going great. But then I ask harder questions as I go along. So I feel a little trollish, like, I'm putting out titles out there because that's the audience I want. I want the fundamentalist like I was, and I'm not trying to be dishonest. But if I put, atheist says Christian sucks as my title, I'm probably not going to get a fundamentalist to even click.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I just want to quote. I think your latest video. So brother, we just found out that my wife is like genetically a man. So does that mean I'm gay for sleeping with her? Oh, that's a really, really good question. I think that we're out of time.
Okay.
Dodge the important questions.
I decided to sabotage the entire intent of my channel every once in a while with a little bit of comedy. I can imagine some actual Christian saying, okay, yeah, that guy's got a great idea. And then watching that video. That video is based on actually several characters, but one of them actually is my cousin, and I'm going to make a video about that. My cousin was an actual evangelist, kind of like Peter Popoff.
Okay.
And did the same things that Peter Popoff did. And the odd thing about it, I was this like huge Christian and everything, and here's this Christian rock star in my family. And I annoyed the piss out of that guy. And the reason was he was a complete charlatan. All he did was he evangelized, and he would go give a speech about how he would lay hands on someone and he would feel tumors disappear under his hands. And then he would do the thing with Maria Rosita, your sister has cancer and that need has been taken care of. And Fred Schlosky, your eczema is being taken care of right now. And he'd work the room that way. And what it was is he had an earpiece with the radio transceiver, and his wife was reading the prayer cards. And then he would stop right then and there and ask for a 10-minute break. Okay. Well, this gave everyone in the congregation the time to go, oh my God, he couldn't know that God's really talking to him. This God's really, and he would always stretch it out to almost 15 minutes. So there is just this huge buzz, and he'd come back and he would say, well, we really need your support. And they pass out the trays for his ministry, not the regular. And he drove a Ferrari, and his wife actually drove me to one service in her Alfa Romeo.
Really? Wow.
And as soon as Peter Popoff got busted for doing that, he all of a sudden was no longer an evangelist. And the funny thing is, at the very end of that video, I break character from the pastor. Did you see that part?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
where the fuck you find that guy?
Yeah.
Got fed that fuckers.
That actually kind of was molded out of after my cousin. He had this extreme charisma, but in the family at home, the last thing in the world he ever wanted to talk about was God. And you would think, being this mega evangelist, if tumors were shrinking under his hands, he couldn't shut up about it, right? And I would ask him all about Jesus and the Bible, and he did not want to talk about it. I don't even know if he opened the Bible. He didn't need to with his ministry. All I had to do was tell stories about how God was healing through him when he was putting his hands on there, throw out the crap from reading the prayer cards to get the audience excited and think that his stories that he just told were valid, and rake in the cash and go to the next church. That's all he had to do. So that character was kind of based on him, but I tried to make him as cringy as hell. His cadence and so forth, I probably shouldn't even say this, is actually based on a fellow by the name of Daniel Carter. And I did a couple of videos as a rebuttal to him, but he kind of talks like this, and he gives this little cake. And I found it so irritating just listening to the guy that I had to do it.
That was pretty cool. Yeah. You asked me to watch it because I'm gonna turn off my ringtone. You guys don't hear my Twitter going off. Um, yeah, because you told me to check that out because you had this new character, and when I saw it, I'm like, oh yes, Brother Faithful. If you guys haven't seen David's latest video, it's pretty darn funny. I would definitely check it out. If you haven't seen any of his content, go check it out and go subscribe to his channel. He has less than me. I thought I was the smallest here in the community. You guys got to bump him up a little bit.
Well,
I need to say the least important.
the thing is, I'm working right now. I've been working for the last couple of hours. I actually describe myself as an amateur Christian historian, amateur scholar, which means I have no formal education and I just love it. And I kind of have wanted to get into Bible scholarship on my channel. It is just so difficult for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you talk to Christians about Bible scholarship, they have no idea what you're talking about. There's just no basis. You can't even carry a conversation.
Very few, and very few even know like what philosophy is. Like,
right. And
either. So
also, almost anything you say about the Bible can be, and no matter what, even if it can't be, it will be refuted. For example, like the Gospels were not written by Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. They were written by other people.
yeah.
Now, that can't be refuted from a scholarly level. However, you talk to any Christian, they're going to tell you you're stupid. Mm-hmm. You have no idea. In fact, they're going to write off anything you have to say out of that because you're a stupid atheist and you don't know what you're talking about.
Right. And like, I didn't hear about the Council of Nicaea until like a year after I was an atheist. Mm-hmm. And like, that was like after a couple hundred hours of like listening to like Hitchens debates and shit like that. So,
most people
just don't know.
And most people have a lot of misconceptions about the first council of Nicaea. They believe that's when the Bible was actually canonized, and it wasn't. It was actually canonized way before that. They just agreed to that particular canon after much debate. And they did have a certain criteria of things that they wanted to. Most of it dealt with popularity and if it matched their particular doctrine at that particular time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's always an agenda. So
absolutely, every Bible. I hate it when people say, "Well, the Jehovah's Witness wrote their own Bible." Yeah, so did everyone else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And every single time.
Mm-hmm.
The NIV, there's a new NIV that it's stripped gender from the Bible, and where it says his, they try to put him, her type of people. They'll use the word people or something like that because they're trying to strip the gender out of the text, and they're also trying to make it more acceptable to the younger 18 to 30-year-old generation, that they would accept it because those people are becoming more cosmopolitan and more liberal in their thinking. So when their purpose was to make a Bible that they would be likely to want to have.
Is that politically correct Bible that I heard about?
No, it's a new version of the NIV. I could be wrong on that. I was just reading about it recently. Actually, in a Hector Aviles book that he wrote about Bible scholarship. This book is called The End of Bible Scholarship. But anyways,
yeah. Well, I only want to go on for about another 15 minutes. So if you guys have some questions, please throw them out now. And I have a couple more things I want to touch base on. The one thing that I like that you pointed out is that these people who have religious experiences, they're real to them. They're real to them. And I like the way that Anthony Magnabosco goes about it during his street epistemology too. Like if anyone uses personal experience as a reason for their beliefs, he doesn't downgrade that ever. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to mess with that. You had that. That's yours. I mean, I don't think you really had one, but I'm not going to take that away from you. That's that's true to you, and I think that's important, whether or not you agree with that, because if you just shut that part of the conversation down, then you tend to shut the entire conversation down. And I think that's an important thing to point out.
Absolutely. My son the other day, I can't remember exactly what his point was. We were driving into town and he said, well, Dad, I think that maybe, maybe we're like possibly space aliens or something, maybe possibly from another dimension or something that came. And I said, yeah, and a magic unicorn lives in my butt. And he's like, no, Dad. I said, no, wait. You said, could it be possible? And I said, yes, it could be possible that we're from space aliens or something else. But I said, could it be possible that we came from a magic unicorn that lives in my butt? So which argument is more valid? And after a while, he finally laughed. He's like, okay, I see what you did there. Because he was like, dude, there isn't a magic unicorn that lives in your butt. You're being stupid. But then it kind of dawned on him that he had no more basis. I was like, what is the basis for your conjecture that we could come from space aliens? I'm just wanting to know what you're basing that. Well, I don't have anything. So it was kind of funny because then I looked over at him and I says, I just SE'd your ass, boy.
That's how you do it.
And he got a laugh out of it. He knew what I was talking about, but it was pretty funny. But it was great because, like you said, I didn't downgrade him. I just made a comparison, my own comparison, of how he thought my claim was ridiculous. Okay, fine. That's cool. I accept that. It does sound ridiculous. How is yours more valid?
Right.
And I kind of try that approach on my channel too. When I try to approach the Christians in my title and so forth and deal with issues that they're dealing with. That's how I kind of progress. I kind of progress in answering the questions from a Christian perspective. And then I progress to the point of asking tougher and tougher questions. And it always ends up with, how do you know there's a God? That's the number one question you got to ask before we, go to anything else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I really like your take on things, and I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your experiences. And I think what you're doing is going to be really, really helpful, especially to a lot of the fundamentalist Christians, if they will click on your videos. So to help that happen, everyone needs to go over to Compelled Unbelievers channel and go subscribe. Go subscribe. Check out his videos. Share his videos. Help build this guy up because Dave is awesome. And if you would take a couple minutes and tell us where your channel's going, I think that'd be really cool.
I do. Here in the next couple of days, hopefully, I will release my first video on actual Bible scholarship. I would like to touch on Bible scholarship because I have kind of different takes on it that a lot of people don't have. And maybe it's due to my fundamentalist background and studying. I look at things from a historical point of view. When I first studied the Bible as a Christian, I studied the Bible to understand Christianity. Now I study Christianity so that I understand the Bible. So the Bible itself is a reflection of what the early Christians believed. And if you try to understand what God is from the Bible, you're getting like 70 different authors' takes on what their God was. So you got to take it into perspective and look at each author as an individual. So when you study it from a historical perspective, you understand each author's individuality and you can study that. From a Christian perspective, you're meshing, you're putting all these different gods into a blender. And that's your God. And that's why God can be both evil and good at the same time, because we're talking about different gods, different types of gods, different understandings of gods. And so it's not a one God at all. Once you can understand that, then it becomes really easy to understand. And I think the Bible becomes more enjoyable. Yes, I am an atheist that really enjoys the Bible.
Weird.
Yeah, it makes me crazy.
I feel like it'd make a lot of people crazy, but go on.
Yeah, I'm the crazy atheist. So I would like to get into that. I'm definitely going to keep on hitting the titles, dealing with Christian issues, things that they might be looking up, marital problems, whatever, and try to give serious answers from the Christian perspective and work my way into asking more important questions about their faith itself and related in relation to that subject. Once again, going down to, is there really a God?
Yeah.
And because I can't help myself, because I'm a smartass and I love satire, I know I'm going to have to wreck everything I've tried to build on the channel and put out a video like I did yesterday.
Yeah, and now I think that's going to be great. I think Brother Faithful should live on for a little while.
I think you know, and there might be some Christians that subscribe, and then once they see that, they might unsubscribe. I don't know, but I think you've got to have a little bit of humor, and I think if you take it so far that you know that everyone knows you're being an idiot, then they might at least appreciate the humor, you know.
Yeah, I think so.
At least I hope so.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Again, David, thank you very, very much for coming on. I think we are going to wrap this up for the night. Again, last time I'll say it, go subscribe to David's channel. Please go do it. And please still share out this link. Maybe share it out tomorrow. Just like copy, paste, and then throw it on Twitter tomorrow so people can come watch this video. It's not even an hour long, so maybe people will click on it and just come check it out, because this was a really, really cool talk. And if I have any more talks about the seen and unseen, then I'm definitely going to invite you back, David, because this was really fun.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Vibrantly Brantley. I don't know you, I don't think. And Purple Rhymes with Orange, which is actually fastly becoming a friend of mine.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here. Zero, I don't know you. Do you know Zero?
Yeah. Zero's here a lot, and he said that it sounds like you and him have similar childhoods. So hopefully
cool.
Zero will also go over and sub, and hopefully you two can connect a little more. I think that'd be really cool.
That would be cool. Thank you for being here, and thank you,
Mac. Everyone.
Thank you so much. This is great. It was great talking with you.
Yeah. Well, you've been watching my channel for a while, and I've been meaning to get you on. I just haven't had any time until recently.
Right.
So as soon as I saw that and my schedule opened up, I'm like, oh, I'm booking him next week.
That's great.
We did.
That's awesome. Great. I appreciate it. I'd like to work together, and who knows, maybe we can come up with something stupid.
Yeah. I will put the link in the description box below, Zero, so you can click on it. Actually, it's at the top of the chat. I linked that immediately, so you can go straight on up and click on it. But yeah, so I'll put it in the description box. Again, thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Dave, don't exit the call, please, so we can still chat for a few minutes. Right. And everyone, have a wonderful night. Thank you again.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Adios.